Sure.
Uh, the first question is, um, so what do you think the factors are in the establishment and maintenance of stereotypes about Black fathers, either in the clinical practice world or in research? You know, what do you think those factors are that contribute to those stereotypes?
I, I think I typically kind of go back to like media and what's represented, the portrayals that we see on TV of Black males that just tie into all these other ways that we conduct research or think about research when we're actually in practice um, with Black males in particular. I think sometimes people are just, their biases are just showing whenever we think about Black males. And so the idea that a Black male could be gentle with their child, could be knowledgeable about what their child is doing, what school they go to, and whatnot. I know from some of the guys that I've worked with directly, like they know their kid's social security number. They know when their kid needs to go to the doctor. They know the doctor's name. They've been to the prenatal, postnatal appointments. Like they're very engaged and very active. And despite all that, it's almost like they're viewed as a dodo bird. Like, oh wow, I thought you guys were extinct. And the guys are like, no, we're here and we're doing the job. We're just not being acknowledged. And so I even know for my own self and some of the research that I have done. I remember doing a poster presentation at a national conference, and I was talking about fatherhood. And one of the first questions I got was, but what about the bad dads? And so, I kind of interrogated the young lady a little bit because I got a counseling background. And so turns out she had, some daddy issues. And so she kind of came from it with that frame, the idea that, I hear you uplifting, positive Black fatherhood figures. But what about, the bad dad I had and how he hurt me and how he damaged me? And this idea that because I was damaged by this one guy, all of them are bad, and just labeled them all in that same picture.
Wow, wow. So what do you think those stereotypes, what effect do you think those stereotypes have on Black fathers or Black men who are fathering children?
Yeah, I think it causes us at times to position ourselves and contort ourselves at times to show that we're not bad, that we're good. It causes us to change the tone of our voice when we're in certain rooms with people, or how we're even holding our children. Because if we raise our voice, is someone going to say he's abusing the kid? And so like all these different things. And then there's some guys who it's just a difficult hill to climb to get over for them. And so they may, regress, or they may say, you know what, I'm gonna let mom do it when we're in public settings because I don't want anyone to think differently of me or to think that something is going on. So I think it messes with the psyche in some ways. But then also know a bunch of guys who are kind of like, so what? Let them think what they want to think. Like, I know who I am. I'm a Black dad. I'm proud of it. I know for myself. I have 4 kids now, but when I had just 2, on Saturdays I would take them to the library so my wife could go to dance because she was part of this dance class. So she would go dance, and Saturdays was me and the kids. I would cook pancakes. She would eat pancakes with the family. She would go dance. I'd get the kids, put them in a red wagon, and we'll walk to the library to do story time. After story time, I'll walk them to the park, have them some playtime. Then I'll walk them home with the wagon and give them the nap. And then by that time, my wife is coming home. She's able to shower, take her nap, eat some lunch, and everything is fine. But even doing that, it was kind of like there was a studio audience because it was like, oh, wow, look at this Black dad, like this clapping, this whole parade. But it's also like Black moms do this, white moms, Asian moms, etc. do this, and no one, bats an eye. But a Black dad does it, and it's like, wow, it's kind of like when some people would say like, wow, you're so articulate for a Black man. It's like, oh wow, you're so dad for a Black man. Like it's something that's just out the norm for people to see.
Yeah, that reminds me. I remember when I was teaching several years ago, maybe even decades ago. And I was teaching at a predominantly white institution, and I had the students to go out and do observations in a Title I school that was predominantly Black. And one student wrote down, and then when we were discussing, she was talking about her observation. She observed this dad dropping off his son, and the kid didn't want to leave in the morning. So the dad is going along at about 3 miles an hour in the car. The child is walking along on the sidewalk, and the kid was saying, "I love you, Dad." And Dad was saying, "Yeah, I know you do, son. Love you too." And then, "I love you, Dad." And this student observed that, and she came in, and her observational comment was she had no positive observations in her whole life of Black men, of Black fathers. That's the first time she had ever seen that. It was unscripted, and it was just life happening. And there she was observing a loving Black father. And that is when she realized that she had been ingesting stereotypes about Black men, but it was because that's what she sees, that's what's in the media. But without seeing it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have changed her attitude. So I agree with you that, there's a lot. What do you think how are men resilient? Like in situations like that, where there are these negative stereotypes, what are some examples, I guess, of resilience among Black fathers?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things I think about at times is I think, at least for myself, at times, whenever I feel like I'm in a situation where it's like, okay, like I feel overwhelmed or whatever like that, I kind of place myself as if I'm a superhero or I'm a super athlete in some type of sport. And it's like, it's time for me to step up. It's the fourth quarter and whatnot. And so I think some of my brothers do the same thing as well. It's kind of like, okay, this is my moment to shine. It's time for me to step up. And I'm not going to be beat down. Like, I'm about to show that I can do this in any environment. Because I think, we kind of tap into, that ego a little bit. Like, we're better than this, or you're not going to hold me down. And so we just kind of step up to the plate, and whatever that looks like, we're willing to do because we love our kids. And I think that's something that's often overlooked and not noted enough. For instance, I was watching this documentary called Daughters, and a really great documentary. It'll drop on Netflix on August 14th. But in short, I don't get any proceeds from it. So I'll just put that out there. But anyway, so in the movie, it's about these prisoners, inmates. They have daughters on the outside, and they're no longer connected to their daughters. And the daughters want to have a daddy-daughter dance. And so they're like, it can't happen. And so one of the daughters says, well, we're going to bring it to them. So they actually enter the prison facility. They organize the dance, they dance. And so what was so beautiful about it was the inmates got to wear suits. And the daughters came in with their nice dresses and their hair done and all this other fun stuff. And they dance and they smile. But then when they leave, you see all the crying because the dads are like, my daughter's leaving. And the daughters are crying because daddy is gone. And so and I bring it up to say that no one sees that side often enough of like dads crying to be with their children, children crying to be with their dads, and how they want to be attached. They don't want to be detached from dads. And so oftentimes it's this negative view, this negative perception that Black dads or dads in general at times are not on the same platform or equal footing as moms when it comes to being a parent. I know for my own self, at the daycare my kids go to, my kids been going there for 8 years. My youngest one is there now. And so one of the daycare workers, I'm not going to name her name because I love her. She's a great person. So one day I'll go there, and so she says, hey, Bantu, don't forget to tell mom that baby needs milk. And I'm looking at her like, I've been coming here 8 years. Like, just tell me, I'll bring the milk. So I was like, yes, ma'am. I'll tell my wife that the baby needs milk, as if it's like, come on now. I've been here 8 years. Like, my name. You know what I'm capable of doing. But why is it that someone that I've built this relationship with over these years still looks to mom and not to me, even though I'm dead in her face? She's seen me show up for my kids, pick them up, bring diapers, bring all these things. But even in her eyes, it's like, you're still not quite yet mom. And I think that's something to where it's like, okay, like I don't know what else I got to do to show this lady that I'm showing up for my kids other than being present, being there, and being myself. And when I get there, like the kids are running to see me, and it's like, I know you see this, but it is what it is. So yeah, so um, some some things just die hard, and some images that people have. I remember one time a friend of mine was talking about, we have these records in our head, and it just stays on that same groove, playing the same song over and over again. And so some people just don't want to turn off that record and leave it on repeat.
Yes, yes. So what would you say to our participants who are listening in and with us today, or even if they check out this video on YouTube, for example, what can they do today, going back to work with their constituents, or if it's a parent who is watching, what can that parent do differently today?
I would say acknowledge the dads, validate the dad's feelings that you see there in your life. Give that dad a hug. On Father's Day coming up, let dad be. One of my gripes that I've talked about in the past is sometimes you go to church on Mother's Day and it'll be like, oh, we celebrating our moms today. Moms are great. They step up to the plate. Father's Day comes. It's like, fathers, I'm glad you're here. Some of y'all aren't. Y'all don't always show up. There's more work for you all to do. Your kids need you, do more. Community needs you, do more. And so there's 365 days, 366 in a leap year. And we can't even get one day when we're asked to, just sit back, relax. Somebody's going to put a plate on your table today, just put
Yes.
on your slippers and be celebrated today. So I would say celebrate the dads in your life. Consider some of the things that they've gone through. There's a lot of things and issues that men deal with that we're not willing to share with others. And so we hold on to those things. And so you may question, why did he do that? That was crazy. I can't believe it. But he had a reason for it. And he's just not ready to disclose it. And so maybe on Father's Day, you sit back and just let him talk. And maybe he'll share some of that stuff that he's been holding on to.
Yes.
And just let him breathe, because more men need to breathe, want to breathe. But I think we always have to like suck it in, poke our chest out, because we feel the weight that we have to carry on our shoulders, literally, figuratively. There's a lot of, pressure. I'm thinking about, the average income in New Orleans. The median income is like 44K. It's not enough, so people are hurting financially. You got dads suffering with child support payments that they can't get out, their arrearages. It's just so much that they're dealing with. And then you hear someone say, do more. It's just like, goodness. So I would say, let dad breathe, at least for one day.
Lovely. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to add?
It's just so complex, the whole fatherhood space. I was just recently at a conference and we were talking about absentee dads and how there's levels to the absentee dad. Like there's a consistent absentee dad where, in that situation, and this is Dr. Alamu who came up with this research. He says that a consistent absent dad would be one where the dad would say, son, I'll be there Friday. Friday comes, dad is there, and he's going to be there through the weekend with his kid. And then there's the inconsistent absent dad, where it's like, I'll be there Friday. He doesn't show up Friday. He shows up Sunday. And then there's another dad who the child has not seen in 5 or 10 years. I've seen him once at 2, seen him once at 12. And then there's another type of absent dad where child has never met his dad. And so I think, and I bring that up to say that there's levels to it. It's it's an onion. So when people say absentee dad, it can mean so much that, maybe I'm not present because I have children in another household that I'm caring for. And so Monday through Friday, I'm spending all my time with them. And on a weekend, I'm spending my time with you because you're with mom. And so I think to really peel back the layers to understand what some of these guys are going through, and that they have multiple families that they're caring for. And then in some cases, dad is a couple of doors down. And so he's in a community, he's in the neighborhood, or, all his kids are at the same school and they may be with a different woman, because that happens at times. But he's aware and he's present. He wants to be engaged. He wants to be involved. And I know there was a CDC did an article, I can't remember when, maybe within the last 10 years, where they said out of any ethnicity, Black fathers are more involved and more engaged. But we don't talk about that. It's easy to say Black dads don't show up, despite what the research says. And, so many times people will say, oh, let's look at the facts, look at the facts. But we don't look at the facts when we talk about Black dads. And I think that's disheartening. And so I would say, let's look at the facts, folks, that dads are involved. There's a lot of nuance. When we talk about Black dads, it's complex. So again, give that man one day to breathe.
I like it. Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.